Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Berkeley County Board of Education meeting on this Tuesday, May 23rd, 2017. I call this meeting to order. I declare a quorum is present and the media has been notified. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion by McQuillan, a second by Barrow to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion passes. We'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to board officer elections. Are there any nominations?
Madam Chairman, I move to elect, pursuant to policy BBAA, officers, method of election, the following slate of board officers: Chairman Sally Wofford, Vice Chairman Mac McQuillan, and Secretary Michael Ramsey.
There's no second required, so the nomination is by Condor. Are there any additional nominations? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the slate of officers, Sally Wofford, Chairman, Mac McQuillan, Vice Chair, and Michael Ramsey, Secretary, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion passes. We'll now move on to the approval of the minutes for the board workshop on May 9th, 2017. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McQuillan, a second by Mr. Ramsey to approve the minutes for the budget workshop for May 9th, 2017. All in favor, or any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion passes. We'll now have a motion for the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting, May 9th, 2017.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McQuillan, a second by Mr. Ramsey to approve the minutes for the regular meeting on May 9th, 2017. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. We'll now move on to agenda item 2A, the Head Start Budget Expenditures Report. Is there a
Madam Chairwoman, I made the motion to approve the Head Start Budget Expenditures Report for April 2017, the Credit Card Report for April 2017, and the Community Needs Assessment Update.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Ramsey, a second by Mr. McQuillan to approve the Head Start Budget Expenditures Report for April 2017, the Credit Card Report for April 2017, and the Community Needs Assessment Update. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion passes. We'll now move on to Legacy Builders and Special Recognitions. Dr. Porter.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Jackson, board members. It's no secret that Berkeley County Schools attracts the best and brightest new teachers year in and year out. To introduce us to this year's Rookie Teacher of the Year, please welcome to the podium our Executive Director of Leadership Development, Dr. Kim McLaren.
Good morning, Interim Superintendent Jackson, Chair Ms. Wofford, and school board members. It is my great pleasure to ask Ms. Megan Verner to please join me up here. And as she comes, I'd like to tell you a little bit about her. Ms. Werner earned a Bachelor of Science in Psychology from Winthrop University and a Master's of Arts in Teaching with a concentration in special education from the College of Charleston. Currently, she is an autism, behavior, and communication teacher in a self-contained classroom at Devon Forest Elementary. Ms. Mitchum, Megan's principal, stated, "The challenging behaviors in her room require initiative, patience, structure, organization, but most of all, compassion. She works tirelessly to make sure she is meeting the needs of each student academically and socially. Most of all, Megan is an advocate for her students." During her observation, it was evident that Ms. Werner teaches with the end in mind for each student. Her room is stimulating and calming, and at the same time provides each one of her students a chance to be successful in meeting his or her individual goals. Megan celebrated when a fifth grader who has struggled to write his name was able to finally write his full name independently. It is evident that Ms. Werner has developed a meaningful relationship with every child in her class. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Ms. Megan Werner, Berkeley County School District's 2017 Rookie Teacher of the Year. Would you like to-
Thank you. Thanks, guys. I was really honored to have been chosen as the District Rookie Teacher of the Year. I truly couldn't have made it through this first year without the support of my administration, my mentor, and my amazing assistants. I knew going into this that teaching special education was hard. No textbook or training can prepare you for just how hard it really is. Don't get me wrong, I'm not the type to back down from a challenge, which is definitely what I quickly learned this school year would be. As she said, my classroom is an autism behavior communication class, so I have the students who not only have autism, but also have the most extreme behaviors in our district. So it's definitely a challenge each day. Some days I went home and cried on the floor, while other days I left the school feeling truly accomplished. But no matter what, I come to work each day with a passion for my job and constantly look forward to changing the lives of my students. I strive to continually make my classroom a place where my students can not only learn, but also enjoy learning. I pride myself on maintaining an individual relationship with each student, and this can definitely be difficult because my children with autism don't necessarily have what people consider normal social relationships. This might seem strange to an outsider looking in, but I try and find unique ways to connect with my students. I'll dance, sing, or anything in between, really, to help them better understand the content. I believe that the root of all educational progress is based in relationships, and I know with full confidence that as I walk into my classroom each day, that I have developed a meaningful relationship with every child in the room. Again, I thank you all for the privilege and the honor of this award, and I look forward to the year to come.
Making sweet music is something our students do very well. Tonight we honor 3 students who have earned their place in this year's AllState Orchestra. To present these incredibly gifted musicians is the National Board Certified Director of Orchestras at Cane Bay High School, Miss Linda Brent. We can really applaud. It's okay. I feel like the energy's down. There we go. Here we go.
It's very exciting for us at Cane Bay High School to have 3 students make all-county orchestra. One has been our norm, not all-county orchestra. AllState, yeah. Brain thing. These students have worked exceedingly hard making it through the Region Orchestra. Two of them play in the Charleston Symphony Youth Orchestra, and two of them have also been accepted to do the Summers at the Eastman School of Music program, which is really super exciting. And the third has been accepted into Clemson University next year, and we're breathlessly waiting to see if he gets to be the valedictorian at Cane Bay because it's that close. So he wasn't the one who attended Breakfast of Champions, but it's that close. So grades come out tomorrow. So anyway, I'll start with him first. That's Caleb Todd, senior going to Clemson University. And junior, and he's a violist, junior violinist, Blakely Denton. She's in CSYO and attending the Summers at Eastman program this year. And Carlton Williams, who is also in the CSYO and attending Summers at Eastman this summer, also a freshman cellist.
Okay, be honest. Correcting those red squiggly lines in Microsoft Word is how many of us spell words correctly, right? I'm the only one? Okay. Well, this isn't a tool needed for one student with a remarkable ability to correctly spell words we have never, ever heard of. To acquaint us with a true spelling prodigy is our district English and Language Arts coordinator, Miss Laura Garner.
Superintendent Jackson, and board and ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to commend to you, although the young man has not yet arrived since Cane Bay Boulevard is a parking lot, it is my pleasure to commend to you Brent Barley. His principal is here to accept on his behalf, to accept our congratulations. Brent is a student at Cane Bay Middle School. He has only been speaking English as a first language for 3 years. He is a native Tagalog speaker, which makes his accomplishment all the more commendable. Brent won the district spelling bee with a number of unusual words, appropriately among them the word precocious, and made it through countless rounds of, as indicated, words that even the adults in the room didn't know, to win the Low Country Spelling Bee Spellbound, sponsored by the Post and Courier. And he will represent the region in Washington, D.C. at the National Spelling Bee in June. So I commend to you Brent Barley.
Reach the agenda and don't tell anyone. Yeah, we'll go back to that. So we'll go back to Brent when he arrives. We will interrupt our program and acknowledge that student because that is why we're here doing what we're doing. So until he arrives, we'll move on to the other things we have. If you came for another special recognition and your person has been recognized, this is a great time for you to be able to go home and enjoy your accomplishment. Every meeting there is wonderful accomplishment, and it makes us so proud for all of the wonderful things that are going on at Berkeley County. So thank you so much for attending. Next, we'll move on to citizens' comments. Krista Buchanan, I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. My last name is Walford. People say Wolford all the time, so I'm sorry. She'll be speaking on the superintendent search. As you come up to the podium, I'll go through the citizen comments procedures. In order to conduct the meeting in an orderly and efficient manner, we ask that you all honor the following guidelines. Stakeholder comments are welcomed and encouraged. However, the board will not take immediate action on public comments at this meeting. Any person wishing to address the board must register prior to the meeting. Comments must be regarding programs, policies, or procedures. Comments regarding complaints against employees other than district-level executives or references to students other than the child of the speaker will not be heard in public session. Groups addressing the same topic should select one speaker. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The board chair reserves the right to allot additional time or halt public comment that do not adhere to the guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Krista Buchanan. I'm a parent of your 2 lovely students in the back row. I'm here today to ask the board to stop the seemingly frivolous expense of time and finances on a superintendent search. We have a perfectly qualified candidate serving as our acting superintendent. Mr. Jackson's worked at almost every level of educational employment in our district. He has a rare capability of fundamentally understanding the demands of being a teacher, administrator, and now a district level administrator in our very own district. He has insight about some of the things that make our district unique, from the differing culture and financial demographics to the special programs like the Berkeley Middle College or the Berkeley School of the Arts. Most importantly, Mr. Jackson is well aware of the challenges facing our district and still shows up to lead. I'm asking you to acknowledge the talent and experience that's sitting in front of us and hire Mr. Jackson. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on now to administration and facilities, item 5A. Mr. Jackson.
All right, good evening, Madam Chair, board members. You may wonder why we are revisiting the 2018-19 school year calendar or instructional calendar. As you recall, during an April meeting, the board approved for second and final reading the 2018-19 calendar. However, while the HR staff was in the process of preparing for the 18-19 year, they noticed an oversight. If you look at the month of June 2019, the school year ended on June 3rd for students, and that only gave the students 179 school days as opposed to the 180 required school days. So tonight we're here to revisit and amend the 2018-19 calendar and extending that by 1 day, ending the school year for students on June 4th, and the last day for teachers will be on June 5th.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chairman, I make a motion to approve the 2018-2019 revised instructional calendar as presented.
Second. There's a motion by Ms. Condor, a second by Walford. Is there any discussion? My only question is this: since it's an amendment, it will be a single reading, or will it be a double reading?
That's correct. Because it's an amendment, it's a single reading. Yes, ma'am.
Bummer. One more day.
We can.
No, we absolutely have to make 80. So thank you to whomever caught the oversight. We appreciate it. It's the requirement. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor to approve the 18-19 revised instructional calendar as presented, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion passes.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Kevin O'Gorman to the podium to discuss the late arrival, early dismissal calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson, Madam Chair, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen. In the past, we have had a variety of reasons for early release or late-end days. Changes in standards, changes in assessments have required additional professional development time. A couple of years ago, we implemented the academy model, and we expanded upon the number of days that we offered for teachers to have additional PD days. I'm going to try and blow this up for you. Is that better? Yes. So we have gone through considering current assessment results, our professional development needs. We had an outside study done by Hanover Research to look at the perceptions of teachers and parents and administrators on the use of that time, took that information to a committee of administrators and teachers. The committee came up with a proposal, took it back to the schools and had PTAs, weighed in on it, and so what you see in front of you is a result of that. Very quickly, I'm going to go over the big idea of it. If you look at September, for example, in the dark, this is a dark orange, those are late end days, and the purple is an early release. And we try to follow the idea of 2 late ends per month and 1 early release per month, with the exception of August and December. We wanted to leave the short months alone. And I'll scoot over here. You'll see that we didn't have any late ends or early release in May. And then you see for the rest of the time, we see 2 late ends and 1 early release per month. I'm going to point out January real quick. You're going to see this purple, which is a late end, and you see the letter in white. This is a designated professional development day for the district. So some are designated for the school, and some are designated for district days. We've reserved those days for professional development needs based on assessment results from the current school year. Obviously, we don't know what those results might be, but let's say we see a weakness in 6th grade math across the board, and the district would provide targeted PD specifically to those days. I want to point out that we reduced, again, the number of late ends. I think we had 26 days last year, and we've cut it to 14, and so there are 14 late ends, which are about an hour, a little bit more than an hour long, and then the early release, there's 7 of those days, and so those are about 2.5 hours. So the time-wise is almost identical. The other biggie in terms of the parent feedback and the results of the survey basically said, don't have late in and early release on the same day, and we've accommodated that. So with that, I would submit to you this late in early release calendar for approval.
I make a motion to approve the 17-18 late arrival early dismissal dates as presented.
I second.
There's a motion by Wofford, a second by Ms. Conder. Is there any discussion?
What's the thought on having the early release days in the middle of the week on a Wednesday? I know that at least I probably had no less than 10 emails on that point from parents that if you're going to do that, it's tough on working parents and that Fridays would be better suited. What's the idea behind that?
A high rate of absenteeism on Friday of students if they have an early release.
I do appreciate the effort in decreasing the amount of days. I know that our teachers absolutely need this, and we need to do what's right for our teachers, but we also need to be conscious of what we're doing with our families and to our families with our calendars. And for the entire time that I've been on the board, that was one thing that I've heard consistently over and over is there are just too many. And then with the late arrivals for the high school, that was, since we began that's something that I've heard consistently. So I appreciate you guys, making sure that the teachers have what they need and making sure that we're sensitive to the needs of our families.
Was the reduction in the number of days something that was recommended by the study or something that was an internal decision?
The feedback from the study, that was a concern about the number of days, but the high school principals unanimously agreed to reducing it to 2 days a month.
Hearing no other discussion, we'll call the question. All in favor of approving the 17-18 late arrival early dismissal dates as presented, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you, sir. We're now going to move on to the Fox Bank Elementary School Guaranteed Maximum Price. I'll invite Mr. Gene Sides. And Contract Construction, Mr. Greg Hughes. Thank y'all for being here tonight.
Madam Chair, School Board, Mr. Jackson, Gene Sides with Facilities, and I am here to present to you the final GMP for the Fox Bank Elementary School. This is going to be a co-presentation. I'd like to identify some of the players. I have Paulette Myers with McMillan Paston Smith. I want to recognize Laura Slagle in the back. She's been a project manager on the job with McMillan Paston Smith, as well as Greg Hughes and Kyle Farley with Contract Construction. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Paulette to give you a presentation of the school design.
Thank you, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to get to do this project. We actually were awarded it in 2013, so we've been thinking about it for quite a few years, and we're excited to get it to this point to bring to you, to show you. Let me... I got it. Sorry, just take me a moment to get oriented. Help me. Oh, sorry. Okay. So as stated, we've been thinking about this for quite a bit of time. I'll get there. And this is Fox Bank Elementary School. This is a master plan of the area. If you're familiar with the area, this is Highway 52. The school site will be located right here as you come in off of Fox Bank Plantation Boulevard. It's located on a site that will be kind of nestled within a housing community. Most of it's already been built out, but there's still building currently there. Just another locator slide that shows you where we are. We're right here on the site. Site work has actually already started. You can see some dirt moving already currently out there. And then just another view of that site. You can see that we have allotted an area on the site for a future fire station there beside the school. And then here is an overall site plan. You'll approach the school from Fox Bank Plantation Boulevard, and you'll enter the school here across from Yorkshire Boulevard that's already there in place. If you are coming from on a bus, you will enter the site at the south of the site, come in, turn around the bus loop, and you'll be dropped off right here. If you're approaching as a car rider with your parent, you'll come in, loop to the front, round to the front of the school, and you'll be dropped off here, which enters right into the building under a covered walkway. You'll see the staff parking is located here to the north of the site, and there's the site of that future fire station that I mentioned. You'll see the plan kind of arranges itself around, it's type of a U shape, which arranges itself around a courtyard. So students are protected in their play area. Here's a floor plan layout. Essentially, the school is 108,000 square feet, actually 109,000 square feet. It houses students from kindergarten through 5th grade. It is actually on it'll be 2 floors. So we come into the main entry. And our concept is that we come in through this main entry and you see through, all the way through a lobby space. You come into a protected opening, you're funneled through the admin, but you can actually see all the way through this open courtyard area. And the school kind of wraps around that area and cradles these students there. You'll come in, the admin is to your left, and then student spaces are around the U. So this will be the kindergarten and the 1st grade house, or the kindergarten house here, and then on the bottom is the 1st grade house here on the bottom of the slide. And then as you walk down this corridor, you'll get to the multipurpose spaces and the dining area that's denoted by the brown there at the end. The media center is what you'll see as you come through to the front door. I apologize, I'm having trouble with this pointer today. I think the batteries are running out. You'll see the media center arranges itself, and it's located right on that courtyard. The simple layout, we have students, we'll house 900 students, and expansion available up to 1,200. Second floor layout, you'll see it houses the 2nd and the 3rd grade house and the 4th and 5th grade houses. We also have art rooms. We have 2 art rooms, 2 music rooms, and areas for special education. I want to talk quickly about the design inspiration. When we first went to Fox Bank, there were some houses built there, and they were continuing to build, but they also had this amenity center that you see at the top of that slide. The amenity center kind of hearkened on an idea of what I think is low country, almost like a plantation style. So we thought about that, and we started thinking about this one-room schoolhouses. But it's really hard to adapt that style to 100,000 square foot building. But we took this opportunity to still try to think about this. How could the design translate back to that? To not only have this low country type of architecture, but also relate to this schoolhouse, something that's a traditional schoolhouse. So you'll see how we do that. So we start to break down the masses a little bit. You'll see the front door there. You start to bring on a porch that becomes a little more residential in scale. It brings the roof down a little bit. It starts to have these familiar elements of a porch that you take a step up into your home. So it starts to try to do that, to break down that mass just a little bit by doing that. And then you'll see on the edges of this building, we have other images. Here is a elevation, and you'll see we start to create this residential type of mass. Even though it's, of course, a large-scale building, we try to break that down by creating these residential-style gable roofs and things across the front. So the first elevation that you see on the top is the main elevation, the front door. And then on the second elevation, that's your parent side. That will be to the west, and then the bottom is where the bus drop-off is. And that large mass you see on the bottom there is the cafeteria. You're actually looking at the back of the kitchen there.
Can I interrupt you for just a minute? The front elevation, is that handicap accessible? I didn't see that you could, I mean, surely it is, but I just didn't see that you could.
It is, and you'll see that. We have a video that's coming.
Okay.
So basically what you do, if you go back to the front, if you look to the left, there's where the handicap spaces are, and then you walk around to the right, it's really, you're just going up 18 inches, and so there's a ramp to the left that takes you onto that porch. You can kind of see it behind the white tree, behind the white crepe myrtle.
I got focused on the steps, and I'm thinking,
no, because
kids can't get up the steps, so.
No, right around, and it's completely accessible there. You just go to the left.
Thank you.
And then this is just an overview where you'll see how the building kind of wraps around this courtyard and caresses you. And then the cafeteria, how it exits onto that courtyard as well. It also exits onto a play field in the rear. What you're looking at is the corner where the parent drop-off is, and there's a kindergarten playground there as well. And in some interior views, this is inside the media center. It's a little classroom area that's off the media center. You see the circulation desk, the yellow that you see there, and then there's a conference room back beyond. And just a view of that cafeteria, multi-purpose room. You'll see, of course, operable partition that you have in many of your schools. And then an area that are what we call the module spaces. For a little bit of flexible learning, we have these on each corridor, and basically the corridor just widens a little bit and allows a space for pin-up space outside a classroom in each corridor. And just a view of the corridor there, looking back at the media center. And you'll see that to your right at the bottom, you'll see the playground. And those come directly out from the kindergarten. And there's one other view of the other play yard. This is an animation that we've done. This will show you as you're walking around the building. This is the car drop-off. And then we'll go around to the front of the building. You'll see it's a traditional brick building. We do have a little bit of white metal siding at that front entry. And can you see the ramp now as you approach? It's not even a ramp. It's actually just, it's less than 1:20 ratio. And then as you walk in the front door, you'll see to the left is your secured entry that takes you into the administration area. And then we'll go back out into that main lobby as you would enter the building. And then we're looking straight into the media center now. There's some area for display in this area. There's a little seating area right beside that stair. And you come into the media center, and there's that classroom that I showed you to the right. And if you were to look to the left, there would be another little small area also for classroom gathering. So you see that classroom on the other side as well that can handle a classroom as you're going out into the courtyard. The courtyard will be a variety of paving as well as a little bit of landscaped out there too, and then these two outdoor classroom areas. And then we'll walk into the multi-purpose room now. You'll see the stage area. Those are acoustical panels on the wall to help us cut down on some of the loudness that might happen in those spaces. Opens up onto that cafeteria. Serving lines in the back. And you'll see the color pops that we've tried to locate throughout. So each area has an identifying color scheme. And then as you go into the multipurpose rooms, the social spaces, they combine all the colors. So each color is identified by a color. This would be the first grade hall, which is identified by a blue color. And here comes that learning module that we talked about earlier that gives you a space for display, a place to come outside and maybe have a quiet conversation or have a pin-up space where students work. And then here's a typical classroom. Just shows the casework and the cubbies, typical view. You'll see there's signage elements throughout the school as well. This identified, not only can you identify the areas by grade, you can identify it by these large signage areas that show a color and then a wayfinding. They help with wayfinding as well. You'll see the color changes on the floor as I'm walking down this corridor. I go to the next one. It'll start to change colors to help me wayfind so a small child can find their way back to their classroom based on these colors. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Paulette. Berkeley County School District was one of the first to move away from a design, bid, build scenario in constructing schools. Since that time, almost the majority of the school districts we work in have moved to the same type procurement method because it gets your contractor on board before pen hits the paper. It allows us to understand the intent. It allows us to meet with the steering committees. We've really enjoyed being part of this process. We're doing it in multiple districts across the state now, and we think it maximizes cost, schedule, and quality, which is hard to do all three, but we think we come closest with this type of procurement method. We've teamed up on this one with McMillan Patterson Smith, Siemens Whiteside, ADC, and RMF, and have constantly been in touch with specialty subcontractors to try to make sure the cost of this school is as efficient as possible. So we'll hope you agree that we've achieved that goal. The site has been challenging. The developer had to create a temporary detention pond. You'll see on the right. So when we arrived to do site work, we had to empty a pond and fill it with actually undercut it and then fill it with suitable soil. So it's been a very challenging site, but we're to the point now that the pad was ready on Monday. So we're ready to proceed on. We did get early site work approval on December the 13th. We had our subcontractor outreach in this room on April 18th and received bids on April the 25th. Building pad was finished on Monday, so we're ready to go to work. And we expect a 14-month schedule to finish on July 15th to allow us to open for business in August of 18. Total bids received were 119. We had 29 bid packages. Proud to say that 22 of those were bid by local and minority businesses, and 9 were awarded. That's 31% of all the bid packages, but more importantly, over $16 million is going to local and minority firms, which represents 63% of our total GMP. So we were glad with the local participation. Our outreach program worked very well, and we've got a lot of good subcontractors on this project. And that's another good thing about the integrated project delivery. We're able to select qualified subcontractors that can produce quality that you deserve. As important as building the local subcontractor base, 9 months ago I went and met with Tana Lee and said, you know, we've built 122 schools and I can't name one kid that I've brought into the construction profession. And so that needs to change now because there's no more science, technology, engineering, math than what we do every day. I mean, that's what we do all day, every day. So, we've teamed up and we have brought kids into our projects. We have it written into our subcontracts that if there is a child in the Berkeley County School District that's 17 or 18 that wants to do electrical, our electrician has to hire him. If he wants to do plumbing, our plumber has to hire him. So it's written in their subcontracts, him or her, excuse me. But so we're proud to say we had 5 kids from Berkeley High School come to the Berkeley Education Center and work after school every day, 4 of which are graduating, and we know 3 of which we're going to employ full-time, and possibly all 4 full-time. One moved to North Carolina. So we think the program's working. We want to continue with it on this project, and we're taking it to other districts across the state. But, not every kid's cut out for college, and, one day they'll be sitting at the dinner table saying they want to be a contractor instead of doctors and lawyers. So that's our goal. But, so we're excited about the program. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Gene to get to the nuts and bolts of it.
As you can see with the budget sheet here, we have a GMP total of $25,1,068,687. In addition to that, we have about $4 million in professional and technical costs, which include some architect fees, some SWIP, Chapter 1 inspections. There's also some off-site costs that we've had to incur, as well as permit and tap fees. And then on top of that, we've got the typical additional cost of due diligence, furniture, equipment, and technology, and some additional equipment for a total of $3,938,000, which comes to an overall project cost of $33,313,971. From that, are there any questions?
I make a motion to approve contract construction company's guaranteed maximum price of $25,001,687 for the construction of Fox Bank Elementary School and the overall project cost of $33,313,971.
A second.
All right, that opens the floor for questions or discussion.
How many children will this accommodate?
It's designed for 900 with an expansion to go to 1,200.
Okay, so it will expand to another 300 if need be.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on that expansion?
There's
what
about-
type of construction are we talking about?
There is an area in the back of, say, on the kindergarten wing that could possibly use to construct 4 additional classrooms, 8 additional classrooms, 4 on top and 4 on the bottom. It's in this back area.
That doesn't quite add up to 300 students, 8 classrooms. Not at the, 20 to 1?
Well,
It'd be about 12, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we'll expand. It incorporates some other infrastructure as well.
Okay, I was
With that, yeah, on a square foot percentage. I don't know if I can go back to the... It'll be in this area right here. This is only showing a portion of the build out, but there's 4 classrooms there and there's additional classrooms that could come in the back. It's just basically going to be on a needed basis.
Okay. The $2.3 million site work, could you elaborate on that a little bit? Was that because of some soil issues?
That was due to some major soil issues. Due to our soils report, the soils reports came back from our geotech exploration that the soils were extremely bad. They were very clayey. They had they had minimal sand, a little bit of silt, which requires us to muck and remove. And we had to usually remove more soil than we anticipated, an additional 2 to 3 feet. On top of that, the developer had to retain the water runoff on site, so he had to build this pond. So that added more saturation to the site. So that made us remove more muck and fill. On top of, we discovered some, debris and spoils that were buried on site near the front that had to be removed. That resulted in more additional soils that had to be removed. So the soils were unsuitable. On top of the areas that the school district usually attains for schools is not the most suitable. It's not the prime real estate. So the soils were already known in that area to be bad based on our investigations.
Do you think when they expanded Highway 52, they just cleared and dumped and covered it up?
A lot of it. The church across the street had the same issues. They expressed some, I guess you could say, frustrations with the developer for not being told or being informed of that type of soil condition. but it's pretty known well within this area, especially in the Fox Bank area.
Anybody else have questions? Hearing none, we'll call the question to approve the guaranteed maximum price, $25,001,687 for the construction of Fox Bank Elementary School and the overall project cost of $33,313,971 to contract construction. Motion by Wofford, second by Ramsey. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Jackson, I have a question about the schools that will be impacted by when this school comes online. Where would that relief come from? And what would be those attendance areas?
That's not an item on the agenda for the GMP,
Oh, okay.
but we can add it. We can add it to.
You need to know.
Yeah, we can add it to the the 13th agenda to talk about that, but it's not a line item that's on the agenda. We're on to financial services, 6A, roof replacement and repairs.
Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening.
Madam Chair, Interim Superintendent Jackson, and ladies and gentlemen of the board. So we have before you information for bid number 503-1617, which is for roof replacement and repairs at various schools to include St. Stephen's Elementary, St. Stephen's Middle Gym Area, the Berkeley High Band Building. This is bid package number 1, ADC project number 17044. This is a budgeted item in the capital projects, and we are requesting that you award this IFB number 503-1617 for roof replacement and repairs at the schools just named to Southern Roofing Services Incorporated for a total cost of $557,250.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we award IFB number 503-16-17 for roof replacement and repairs at St. Stephen Elementary and St. Stephen Middle Gym and Berkeley High Band Building to Southern Roofing Services, Inc. for a total cost of $557,250.
Second. There's a motion by McQuillan, a second by Wofford. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of awarding motion IFB 503 for roof replacement for St. Stephen Elementary, St. Stephen Middle Gym, and Berkeley High Band Building to Southern Roofing Services for a total of $557,250, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. We'll move on to agenda item 6B.
Okay. You have before you information for bid number 504-1617. This is for roof replacement and repairs at Marrington Elementary School in the kindergarten wing, Macedonia Middle Gym, and Goose Creek High, their 300 wing. And we are asking that you award IFB number 504-16-17 for roof replacement and repairs at the schools just identified to Roofco Incorporated of Sumter, South Carolina, for a total cost of $661,700.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to award IFB 504-1617 for roof replacement and repairs at Marrington Elementary, Macedonia Middle, and Goose Creek High to Roofco Incorporated of Sumter, South Carolina, for a total cost of $661,700.
Second. There's a motion by Ms. Lee, a second by Wofford. Is there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of awarding IFB 504 for Marrington Elementary, Macedonia Middle, Goose Creek High to Roofco Incorporated of Sumter, South Carolina for a total cost of $661,700, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. We'll move on to agenda item 6C. Okay.
You have before you information for bid number 506-1617. This is for roof replacement and repairs at Hanahan Middle. And we are asking you to award IFB number 506-1617 for roof replacement and repairs at the Hanahan Middle Science Area to Exterior Solutions of Georgia, doing business as Bone Dry Roofing Company, for a total project cost of $363,400.
Madam Chairwoman, I make the motion to award IFB number 506-16 through 17 for roof replacement and repairs at Hanahan Middle to Exterior Solutions of Georgia, DBA Bone Dry Roofing Company, for a total project cost of $363,400.
A second.
There's a motion by Mr. Ramsey, a second by Ms. Lee. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of awarding IFB 506 for roof replacement and repairs at Hanahan Middle to Exterior Solutions, Bone Dry Roofing Company, for a total project cost of $363,400, please respond by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. We'll move on to agenda item 6D.
You have before you information for bid number 507-1617. This is a term contract for carpentry project supplies and materials. This will be covered in general fund as well as capital projects. And we are requesting that you award 507-1617 for carpentry project supplies and materials to Worth Wood Group for an annual cost of $15,000.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to award number 507 for carpentry project supplies and materials to Worth Wood Group for an annual cost of $15,000.
Second. There's a motion by Mr. Barrow, a second by Wofford. Is there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of awarding 507 for carpentry project supplies and materials to Worth Wood Group for an annual cost of $15,000, please respond by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. We're on to agenda item 6E.
Okay. You have before you information for bid number 512-1617. This is another term contract for chef coats for our child nutrition staff. This budget will be covered by the Food Service Fund. And we are asking you to award IFB number 512-1617 for chef coats for child nutrition to the Happy Chef Incorporated for an initial annual cost of $30,586.40.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chairman, I make a motion to award IFB 512-1617 for chef coats for child nutrition to the Happy Chef Incorporated for an initial annual cost of $30,586.40.
Second. There's a motion by Ms. Conder, a second by Wofford. Is there any discussion? Questions? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of awarding IFB 512 for chef coats for child nutrition to the Happy Chef for an initial annual cost of $30,586.40, please respond by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. We're on to agenda item 6F.
Okay. You have before you information for bid number B000-000-01718 for the South Carolina Purchasing Alliance for perishable and non-perishable food products. This is a term contract that will replace the expiring term contract we have in place. This is a budgeted item in the Food Service Fund. And we ask that you award IFB number B000-000-01718 with the South Carolina Purchasing Alliance to purchase perishable and non-perishable food products from U.S. Food Services Incorporated, Lot A, which is $7,169,304.71, and Limehouse Produce Company, Lot B, for $79,000 for an annual total cost of $7,248,304.71.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to award IFB number B000-000-01718 01718 with the South Carolina Purchasing Alliance to purchase perishable and non-perishable food products from U.S. Foods Incorporated and Limehouse Produce Company for an annual cost of $7,248,304.71.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Lee, a second by Mr. McQuillan. Is there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. To approve the award of IFB number B00000001718 with the South Carolina Purchasing Alliance to purchase perishable and non-perishable food products from U.S. Foods, Inc. and Limehouse Produce Company for an annual cost of $7,248,304.71. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Next, we'll move on to Agenda Item 6G, the 17-18 General Fund Budget Workshop Update.
Okay. So this is basically a follow-up from our last board meeting on May 9th, where we presented a board workshop to kind of show you where we were headed for our FY 17-18 budget. This is one of the slides we took from the previous PowerPoint, and I just wanted to bring forth that we are still looking at a projected revenue increase of $22.1 million. At this time, these numbers have not changed. We do not foresee any changes on the local side as well as the state revenue side. So we're looking at a 22.178750 increase. And that number flows to the next slide. This is where we were at the last meeting. We had talked about the mandatory step increases, and that number includes all staff, teachers, classified employees, everyone. We talked about the mandatory retirement increase, the mandatory health insurance increase, which will take effect in January, the opening of Philip Simmons High, and we also listed a pretty detailed by line item of all the federal and state local mandates, which includes positions and things of that nature. We also included school and district level requests, and we had a line item, pretty detailed line item listing of all of that information. And then we also added a $300,000 line item to the opening of Bowens Corner Elementary and Fox Bank Elementary. And if you remember, that number just represents hiring a principal and a secretary, towards the February-March time frame before the school opens. So when we left off, we were looking for additional funding of $495,000 to meet all of the needs that we had presented to you on May 9th. Well, at the result of the budget workshop, we asked each of you for your board priorities, and we combined all of our notes together, and this is what we came up with. Across the board, we were not looking at a millage increase, and across the board, you were in support of moving certain projects out of general fund to an 8% fund, which we talked in depth about that. We also looked at trying to implement various special programs into our budget, as well as the technology coaches and technology improvement. Everyone was in support of that, as well as transportation improvement and competitive compensation. So not only were your board priorities identified, but we tried to address the ones that we could to stay within our budget to meet your priorities. So the first thing we did is we removed the various projects that we had talked to you about. We moved them out of general fund to 8% funding, and you'll notice it was the biggest cost, of course, is our new HR finance accounting software, which is going to be about $3.3 million. And then from there, we listed all of the information technology, equipment and infrastructure needs, as well as replacement costs to refresh servers, cameras, et cetera. We included an activity bus, and as well as for transportation to update the bus cameras and the video systems. So we were able to remove $5.5 million from the general fund, which frees up that money to do other stuff and address your board priorities. So this is what we did. If you remember, we left off on May 9th with, we felt like we needed $495,000 in order to satisfy all the needs and the requests. But then when we addressed your board priority to move those, the previous slide where we listed all the requests that we could move out of general funding to 8%, that added $5.5 million to the budget. So now we have available $5 million, $5,087,000. So what we did is we zoned in on all of your board priorities again, and we ran some numbers to do a 1% cost of living adjustment across the board. That's all staff, all teachers, all classified staff, everyone. And we're looking at about just under $2 million. We added 2 more instructional technologists, and we've indicated that's revenue neutral, which basically means we're taking it from another funding and it's basically revenue general or revenue neutral. We're taking it from one place and putting it into another, but it's not impacting general fund. But yet technology will get 2 additional technology positions. Does that make sense? And then we also added engaging creative minds at $105,000, and we listed those schools that would benefit from that new program. And we also listed an activity bus. Now, what we're trying to do is purchase 2 additional activity buses this year, 1 out of general fund and then 1 out of 8% debt to meet the needs of transportation, the transportation office. And we also, in order to prepare us for the opening of Bowen's Corner and Fox Bank, we just had a line item for $2 million that we could use in fund balance now, just as a little saving place, because we're going to need to put some money aside to get ready to open those schools. And then lastly, on the special ed side, we're looking at a Medicaid shortfall. As you know, Medicaid's been having some issues. It's not just with our district, it's throughout the state of South Carolina. We might have to have some discussions again about this if the new health care reform is passed and it impacts, the Medicaid that's being funded to schools. But right now, we've listed a line item of $800,000 to support special ed. So when you try to look at all of your board priorities and what we could do, we basically have available for other needs in the district of $181,000 if you agree with what we've done. Any questions on this slide?
So this effectively, for those folks who are within the 28 year, they get a step increase of about 1.5% and then an additional 1?
No, sir. They will not get a step increase because we do max out, but they will get a cost of living adjustment on their current salary.
I thought we included a step increase.
We did, and I will need to probably defer to Dr. Levine, but our salary schedule does max out at 24 year.
28.
Oh, at 18 year.
28.
It's 28.
Excuse me, 28.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
So if they're at 28 now, they'll only get a cost of living adjustment. They won't get a step increase because there's nothing to step them up to.
No, I'm saying the people that are from 0 to 27 get that step increase.
Oh, yes, sir.
That's
sorry.
what I'm
I misunderstood
saying.
you.
Until
okay.
they reach the 28th year, they still get the 1.5 step increase. And in addition, the administration is recommending another 1% on top of that.
Yes, sir.
So an additional 2.5 total, basically.
Yes.
Okay. That was my, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion?
So this is where we are now. We're bringing forth our projected revenue of $22.1 million, and we have to factor in the cost of living adjustment, the step increase, the retirement increases, health insurance, the opening of Philip Simmons, as well as all of the previous items we brought to you for the federal, state, local mandates, as well as the school and district level requests, and then the opening of Bowen's Corner Elementary and Fox Bank. The items that were on the slide where we talked about moving from general fund to 8%, all of that's been taken out of the $7.3 million line item. So all of that's been taken out. So we are looking at spending $21.9 million, and we have $181,000 available for other needs.
Part of that spending is putting away $2 million into the reserve.
It is. That is included in that $7.3 million number. Yes, ma'am.
Save a little bit for a rainy day.
Yes. So this is where we are now. And here we are. We've got our budget calendar. By June 13th, I'm hoping we'll do our first reading of the proposed budget. And then by June 27th, we'll have our public hearing and the board will approve our budget. But this is the direction we're heading in at this point.
I'm very pleased to see a cost of living increase, the increase to technology, and also the Engaging Creative Minds I've seen some exciting things from them, so I know they make a big impact at Cainhoy, at Bonner, and so I'm glad to see that as well. Anybody else have feedback about the direction we're headed?
No, really. One of the issues that most people wanted to see was a school bus transportation, something along those lines, maybe help out with some salaries in that. But obviously, there's not enough money left. There's $181,000 left. Do we have any plans for that, or just add it to the general fund, or?
Yes. We actually, one of the things that Mr. Fleming had requested was incentive pay for his bus drivers, and we were able to find a spot for that, so we've already incorporated that into the budget. It was not very much money, so it was manageable for us to do that.
Okay, so an increase has been put forward
As
for
far
the
as
bus?
incentive pay to
Okay,
reward
very
them,
good.
yes.
That's good news.
Yes.
Because most of us wanted to see something for the school transportation.
The transportation department was addressed last year with respect to salary. Currently, as you know, we're in the process of a comprehensive salary assessment, and we have not received those results back yet. So we felt it would be prudent to save a more aggressive approach until, later, possibly next year, when we get the results back and have the ability to study those and determine feasibility in a process to move forward. So the more aggressive approach was reserved, but the 1% we felt cost of living increase, we felt it was a step in the right direction, and with the increase in benefits that are coming up in January, it would help our employees out.
Excellent. Good thought, yeah.
The 1% increase, is that for all employees, or is that just everyone that's on a teacher salary schedule?
Every single employee.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And with our salary study, is that including maintenance? I know that there was some discussion about maintenance at our workshop.
Yes, ma'am. It's comprehensive. It's every employee that we have.
It's part of the reason why it's taking a little bit longer. It's touching everyone. So.
I would like to see possibility of adding some additional maintenance individuals, because we're having a lot of more square footage to maintain. A lot of schools that have additionally come online in the last few years, and very few additional maintenance folks in the last couple of years that I'm aware of. So maybe we can use that 181 to possibly bolster that number. I think we had 8 in the budget.
Yes, sir. So in the during the workshop, you saw the 8.
Yeah.
And just within house, we determined that we could different strategies that we could implement within house to add additional allocations or FTEs, if you will, to the maintenance department. So I think we figured in another 5. So that's a total of 13.
Fantastic. Mr. Thomas will be happy.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
There's no other questions or discussions. Thank you so much. We'll move on to agenda item 7A. Whoops. Dr. Levine.
I Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Board Chair Wofford, members of the board, Interim Superintendent Jackson. Policy and Rule JDD AAA School Wellness are being brought to you for revision this evening. At this time, it is the recommendation of the administration that you approve the first reading of Policy and Rule JDD AAA as listed under Board Agenda Item 7A.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chair Lady, I make a motion to approve the first reading of Policy and Rule JCD AAA and JCD AAAR for revision.
Is there a second?
Second.
So I am particularly concerned about policies or any policy that we make, that we're 100% committed to implementing those policies and making sure that we adhere to them. It's very dangerous to have policies that we do not fully comply with. I have a little bit of background in compliance, and it is way worse to have a policy you don't follow than no policy at all. So I'm real concerned about what the law requires as far as this wellness rule and anything that is above the requirement. Because I get, the school district will ensure that foods and beverages made available for sale at schools during the school day are consistent with the current USDA guidelines. I don't know exactly what that is, and I don't know what that means for vending machines and chicken sandwiches and hot dog roasts and all kinds of things that we do to reward kids and fundraise and all kinds of things. So I have some concern about how we implement that appropriately. And I don't want to have a policy that people are like, well, that's what they put in the book. They didn't really mean us. They meant those other people somewhere else. We can still serve popcorn or popsicles or whatever. And I have a child with a food allergy. I understand what quality food is, and we want to offer quality food. We certainly don't want to be junk food junkies, but I do know we use pizza parties and popsicles and ice cream and all kinds of things as rewards. So it's not that I don't want us to be well. I just want to make sure we can live up to what we put in here and that we aren't going to put additional burden on principals or our librarians or teachers or anyone who's normally running these programs. It looks edited, but at one point in time I thought this said that you could not use physical activity as a punishment. And I don't know. I would say
That was going to be my question. Yeah.
That's very difficult because I know that sometimes we walk laps or coaches make people run who didn't show up on time. So is that required by the rule? And wow.
Exactly. Well, let me tell you what my understanding is, and I'm also going to have to defer because remember now, what I do as far as HR is concerned is bring the policies to you after the group that meets, that's in charge of it, has worked on it and has worked with individuals on it. And also keep in mind that one of the things we do before we even bring the policy to you is have our legal counsel review the policy itself. So regarding your question about the after-school part, as I understand it, when it works for athletics, I was told that this is for the school day, within the course of the school day itself. So we're not talking about athletics as the way it was described to me.
And I won't loud out my principal, but my child attends a school where the principal has a wonderful policy that if you have a 0 in the grade book, you have to spend some of your recess time making up that work so that 0 comes out of the grade book, and it's very rewarding. Kids don't want to be sitting at that table. They want that 0 out of the grade book so they can get out to recess. And so to me, that is very difficult to discipline. And that is a way to really motivate kids to get that positive time outside.
I too have concerns with this, specifically in the rule. Was it JCDAAA-R? When we're looking at, was it the sixth section of it where it says wellness and promotion said that schools, and I'm not a wordsmith, so my understanding is when we say shall, it is, it's pretty stern. Schools shall not use food or beverages as rewards for academic performance or good behavior. And my concern with that is, and I guess I'm addressing the board when I say this, we have had programs in our schools like Roscoe Reading, and it promotes reading. And when the children read and reach a certain goal, then they get an ice cream party. And I could be wrong, it may not be that way anymore, but I know it used to be that way. They get an ice cream party. So if we have this in our rule, I don't want it to do away with our Roscoe Reading program. I don't want it to do away with our programs that encourage children to read. To Ms. Wofford's point, burdening our staff, our principals, in here it states, I believe it's in the rule, let's see if I can find it, where it states that we have to, nutrition, number 2, where it says nutrition education. Nutrition education will be offered weekly in grades K through 5, annually grades 6 through 8, and at least one time in the required health education instruction for high school graduation. Is this in addition to what we're already teaching our kids? And I know that our schools are really doing a good job of trying to educate our children in what's healthy eating and healthy eating habits, healthy lifestyles. But are we adding more of an unnecessary burden to our teachers and our principals, ensuring that we're doing this weekly in K-5?
With respect to this portion, and let me go back, when this policy was revised and the rule was revised, it wasn't done so in isolation. It was done with a committee. The committee had district representation as well as school level representation. There were principals representing each level, elementary, middle, and high, as well as child nutrition was involved, to establish the revision of the policy and the rule. But with respect to number 2, I think it's more just a restatement of what's already occurring in our schools now. I don't think it was added to give an additional burden onto the schools.
This is first reading too, so to the extent we want to make amendments, I think we can between now and second and final reading, correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay.
And I tend to lean to a policy that meets the requirements of the law and also is something that we can commit to as a school district that we are going to enforce. Because what's unfortunate, and I do not want to happen to a single principal here, is one principal will be enforcing this rule and they will be the bad guy, while some other principal will say, oh, they didn't really mean that. And it creates confusion, and then people go from one school to the other school and say, well, I used to do this, but now I could do that. And it falls back to this board who, now says there can be no vending machines. I don't know if our vending machines meet USDA, but I want to do what the law requires, but I absolutely want to limit the policy to something that we will live by. And if we can't live by it, and it's not required by law, if it is required by law, then we're going to have to stand up and say it's required by law. But if we can't live by it, we should not ask our principals, parents, kids to live by it. And the 6 wellness policy is where I tend to have the most issues, where you cannot use food or beverages as rewards for academic performance or good behavior. Now, I agree we're not going to withhold food for punishment, but I'm okay with you walking some laps. You might have some energy and you might need to walk up and down the hallway a couple of times. But it's very, very difficult to appropriately discipline, and I think walking laps is a way that you get your exercise. And I know in sports, absolutely, you're running poles or you're late and you're having to run the track. I think that is holding people responsible for what they're supposed to do, but very, very leery of anything in here that we cannot put in front of our principals and they're going to say, yes, absolutely, I'm going to live by that. because it just puts the board at risk, and it puts our district at risk unnecessarily.
I agree with you, Chairman Wofford. I've been sitting here listening to all of this, and I think if we implement a policy that we adhere to what is required by law, that's all we need. Primarily because I believe in giving as much autonomy as we can give to our principals, our teachers, and parents when it comes to the things that we do to challenge our children and to inspire our kids. I think there is such a thing as tying your hands too much, and I don't agree with that. I honestly feel very strongly that, we're a free country. Okay, too many policies sometimes really has a tendency to muddy the waters, and we can go on with the second reading, but that's where I come from.
I've been a building principal for many years, and the issue of vending machines has always been controversial. I think most principals use discretion wisely. Obviously, it's against the federal guidelines to actually have those machines operational during lunchtime, particularly with carbonated beverages. Now, in terms of fruit drinks and things that are in line with USDA approved foods, that's not an issue. So what the vending companies have done is they have taken those carbonated drinks out of the equation and put non-carbonated and fruit drinks into those machines. And I think if discretion is used, it should be allowed in terms, because middle and high school principals augment and supplement their incomes tremendously in their activity funds by the use of these vending machines. I have always been in favor of, as Ms. Conder said, allowing the flexibility and the principals to make those judgments in their particular building settings, with the knowledge and understanding that there are guidelines and there are mandates, there are federal mandates that are required in order to maximize those and to make sure that we're abiding by the law. So obviously I'm a policy-oriented gentleman. I've been a policy guy for a long time. I have no problem looking at this policy, scrutinizing it, and making sure that on the second reading we've taken our due diligence and looked at it carefully, and maybe come back with some suggestions for changing it wherever applicable.
Awesome.
Just to echo, I agree with you. I think let's figure out what's required, and then to the extent it's not required, let's leave that discretion with administrators.
Same.
All right, any other comments or questions? This is for the first reading. All in favor of the first reading of policy and rule JCDAAA and JCDAAR, school wellness, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Nay. 5-1. We're now going to move on to, thank you, Dr. Levine,
Thank
very
you.
much. We're now going to move on to instruction and accountability. Dr. O'Gorman.
Good evening once again. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the Rural School Initiative. I'm going to squint so I can see this real quick. This has been one of the most exciting projects that I've worked on in quite a long time, so it's been fun. The first thing I want to do is recognize Keisha and Sharon, our co-chairs. Go ahead and stand up, wave to the crowd, say hey to everybody. So they sort of led this initiative out in the community. We also have quite a few committee members with us tonight. So if you've been a part of the Rural School Initiative Committee throughout the school year, if you could please stand up. Principals, I mean you too as well. Let's give all these folks a big round of applause. Thanks for braving the weather to be with us tonight. These folks have done a lot of work, and I hope you get to see results of that through this. So real quick, I want to go back through sort of the key points of the Rural School Initiative. How do we serve the social, emotional, and academic needs of kids at school, at home, and in the community? So the big idea is that we're not just doing something for kids at school, but also at home and in the community. And how do we use common language and common strategies for educators, families, and community members to provide consistent support for our students? And then how do we streamline those services? How can we streamline what services kids get at school, at home, and out in the community? We talked about our beliefs that children are cared for deeply by their parents, for their teachers, for their clergymen, or by their clergymen. We believe that everyone must work together to meet the needs of kids. And we believe that if kids are happy and healthy, that we can certainly meet their needs. And we believe that using the same strategies at work, at home, and out in the community will help provide those wraparound services. So this is kind of a conceptual framework. And if you watch what I'm doing in this conceptual framework, you'll see that we're not doing something to the student. We're doing something to the environment around the student. So we're addressing family, we're addressing educators, and we're addressing the community. So what we wanted to do is provide writing, reading, and math interventions at school, at home, and out of the community, and provide services to make sure that our kids are happy and healthy at home, at school, and in the community. And again, not doing anything to the student, but we believe by providing this wraparound service that ultimately the students will benefit from those wraparound services. So how have we been doing that? How have we been working together to educate the whole child? If you think about different activities, whether it's athletics or tutoring after school or things like Head Start, they're all well-intended and they're all working individually to help students. And then you've got things out in the community like Sunday school or youth group. And again, they aren't necessarily working together, but all well-intended. And then think about Parks and Rec, doctor's offices, mental health groups, things of that nature. So they're all doing really good things and they all want to work together, but sometimes they actually conflict with each other. So our philosophy was to try to get all of those services working in the same direction to meet the needs of the kids. So by bringing in all the community members that you just saw stand up, we were trying to figure out what do they get at home, what do they get in the community, what do they get at the school, and how can we make all those things work together. So these are highlights for 2016-17. We've got 52 attendees that participate in community meetings. We've had four big meetings since last summer. We've increased Title I allocations to schools in the Rural School Initiative. Those were listed on that former page. We provided an additional social worker, Read 180 program. The All Care program you'll hear me talk about. I'm sure you've heard about the rolling study halls that Google helped us with. You approved the alternative instructional schedule for Cross High School, and then the Parents as Teachers or First Steps program as part of our community support. So the first thing I want to talk about is Read 180. So that is an academic intervention that we put in at school. They do have access to some tutorial stuff at home. I'll tell you a little bit about what teachers say, students say, and what parents say, and what do the results say. In short, they all think it's wonderful. This is one of the very few academic programs where I've walked through an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school, all six where this is going on. And the kids at the high school level were just as engaged as the elementary kids, and they love the program. Never forget talking to two high school students at Timberland High School. They were off in a reading corner reading, and the student said, "This is the first time I've finished a novel was being in this class, and I can actually see the results of this class and what it's doing for me." And so it's great that you can go in 6 different schools in two different or several different communities at very different levels and hear the same thing. But at the end of the day, the results have to show up on paper. I know this is hard to see, but this is the actual report from our reading inventory, which is an assessment that comes along with Read 180. You'll see that we serve 441 students in the reading inventory. 72% were below basic when we started the program, and now you see that only 41% are below basic. So that's a 31% shift from, that was the start of the school year, and these assessment results were about in January. So this isn't even at the end of the school year. This is halfway through. They're taking the final assessment right now, and I expect that number to improve even more. So we are extremely excited. I know the principals out in the audience. You see Dr. Norton nodding her head over there, Ms. Bradley over here. They have been loving this program, and Ms. Fleming, I want to thank Ms. Fleming. I think you were the first Read 180 school in the district. Nod your head, Ms. Fleming. That's right. And she's had an award from Read 180 that was a national recognition that I hope to bring to the board next time. So she's done some phenomenal things there. But this we've seen not just in one school, and not just elementary, and not just middle, but across the board. So we're really excited about the results. I want to talk about our first steps, parents as teacher data. You'll see that parents as teacher as PAT. You see that Ms. Abby Mills, she's in the audience. Is going to wave to the crowd. And so Abby goes out and she visits homes and works with adults and helps get the kids ready before they start school. You see how many folks that she serves altogether, and 34 of them are in the Rural School Initiative. And then you see the home visits completed and those with risk factors, 134 of those in the Rural School Initiative. And what she does is she develops literacy skills in the Head Start and CDEP classrooms, and also works with parenting groups outside of the classroom. She is all over the place, helping these parents help their kids, or helping the parents become teachers to get their kids ready for school. So I want to talk to you about the All Care Home Health. So this is a business that came to us and they said, we have job opportunities for young adults and older adults, but we don't have enough qualified people showing up that are ready for employment. And All Care, they do things like people will go into a home and provide an elderly person with, they'll give them their medication, or they'll help that person walk their dog, and things of that nature. And they've got to get certified to do that. So they came to us and they said, we've got these employment opportunities. We want to provide services in the community. So this is straight out of Timberland High School. So they partnered with the Rural School Initiative. We had CTE involved, our career and technology education. We had adult ed. We got transportation involved. So we really got a lot of different people involved to get this set up. So we developed an 8-week course. We used the registered nurse at Timberland High School to teach the course. It was after school at Timberland High School for students for 1 hour. We had adult learners come in for 2 hours. Skills assessment was conducted by the All Care at the end of the course. And so we had 100% of those kids pass the assessment and provided with employment opportunities. And so this is just a breakdown of how many kids were involved in this process. You see 12 completed. 3 18-year-olds have applied for direct employment. One of them was a special needs student. 7 17-year-olds have filled out an application for the mentoring program. They'll be paid as a mentor. They can't start officially until they're 18. You see we had 1 adult learner secured a job with Berkeley Emergency Medical Services, and a 16-year-old is waiting to turn 17 to apply. So it was a 100% successful program, and we want to replicate this process in the future. Highly successful. Outstanding job. And special thanks to Dr. Westbury, Tana Lee, Lily Caldwell, and Carrie Doherty for all working together to make that happen. It was a really cool thing. So overcoming traditional barriers with technology, Diane, I'll make you wave to the crowd too. Diane is just a workhorse. I don't know if y'all know this, but she just makes things happen. So she works with Google, and they have deployed 1,923 Chromebooks and book bags in the Rural School Initiative. She partnered with Google to put Wi-Fi on 28 buses to go out and take our kids home from school. They have devices on the buses on the way home. She put instructional technologists on the buses as it was rolling out to make sure everything was working. And it's just really cool. And you think about the barriers of internet access out in those rural communities. It was not just a problem on the way home from school, but it's also a problem or a concern over the summer. And I'm going to come back to that. So real quick, what they did at the rollout, they started with 2 buses at St. Stephen Elementary in the spring of 16. So last year, we got a grant from Google in the summer, received funds and installed the equipment in the fall. And now all rural school initiative schools, those 28 buses have that Wi-Fi access. And over the summer, they're going to have those buses parked out in community locations or installed on other buildings. And they'll have 10 Wi-Fi locations during the summer months so that our kids at home that don't regularly have Wi-Fi access will have that all summer long. And I think that's just really cool. And so this activity is really also the epitome of what we want to do. How can our business partners come in, help us meet the needs of our schools living in poverty, or students living in poverty, bring in that academic and social emotional need that they have. And so that's just a great example. So with that, if you have got any questions about the Rural School Initiative, I'll be glad to try and answer them at this time. I talked really fast, I'm sorry. I was excited.
With the,
yes, sir.
With the All Care program, we are looking to expand that into other high schools. I'm sorry, Dr. Westbury. Yes, they come back and they want to do this again, and not just with All Care, but Glass Pro is the next one that we're working with. So there are other businesses that have seen this work, and we really want to do this extensively and regularly because it works. Yeah, it makes tons of sense.
Yeah, Mr. Hughes was talking earlier. That's another perfect example of this same idea.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. Last year, before budget season, when we talked about your ideas for this rural school initiative, it touched my heart. It is so exciting for me to see the success. I cannot wait to see the year-end success, and I just really appreciate your heart to serve our most underserved kids. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just so you know, we are expanding to Sedgefield, Intermediate, Middle, and Boulder Bluff. So those are our next poverty-tiered schools. So some of the Read 180 success we're trying to replicate because principals have begged for it, and so we're moving in that direction.
That is awesome. Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Hearing none, we'll move on to Instruction 8B, textbook for adoption.
All right, so I have the District Career and Technology Education textbook adoption for Sports Medicine 2, title being Sports Medicine Essentials. It's on the back table as usual. This was actually adopted by the board already. It was on the state-approved list, but when it went up for formal adoption for the state board, this book was no longer on the list. So we are bringing this back to you and recommending Sports Medicine Essentials for adoption, first reading.
Madam Chairman, I move to adopt the textbook for Sports Medicine 2 as submitted by the administration.
Second. There's a motion by Ms. Conder, a second by Wofford. Any discussion? Did we just leave it off the motion? The book was back there, but the name of the book was just left off the motion.
Yes, so it is Sports Medicine Essentials.
Sports Medicine Essentials. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of adopting the textbook for Sports Medicine 2, Sports Essentials, as submitted by the administration, please respond by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Jackson, Superintendent's report.
Greetings again, Madam Chair, board members. As we come to a close of this school year, it is time to start preparation for the next year. And tonight I'm bringing to you all proposed board meeting dates for the 17-18 school year. As you know, traditionally we hold our board meetings on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. As you go down, you will see that for the most part, that is what I kept to. There are some exceptions. For example, if you look at the first bold date, that is July 11th. That's the proposed board workshop day. As we move down into the month of November, As you will note, we only have one board meeting date proposed for November, and that's because of the Thanksgiving holiday. We have a similar situation for December due to the Christmas holiday and that break there. As we move to the month of January, you will note that those dates do not correspond with the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. I think it's the third and fifth Tuesday of the month, 16th and the 30th. The second Tuesday, that is the first week back from Christmas break. It's not an ideal time to have that meeting with a 3-week break in between the staff being present and that meeting date. So that's it breaks from the norm there. And you'll also note the other bolden dates, October 24th, that's proposed meeting on location at Philip Simmons High School, and March 13th, that's proposed meeting for H.E. Bonner, and that's typically when we acknowledge our Teachers of the Year, so it'd be a nice big area to host that meeting.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chairwoman, I make the motion to approve the 2017-2018 board meeting dates as presented.
All right, there's a motion by Mr. Ramsey, a second by Mr. McClellan. When we talked about that January date, y'all, I thought it was better to go ahead and give you 2 weeks, and there's 5 weeks in January, so that gives you, after you come back from Christmas, it still gives you a 2-week rotation. I hate to go back to back in January and then leave a gap in February. Sometimes that time of year you hear more expulsion appeals, and I hated for there to be such a long time before you heard, kids out of school waiting for those expulsion appeals. The July 11th date, we don't have a time on. I don't know if that will be all day, a start at 4 o'clock. We'll have to discuss that, but we're putting that date out there for that work. It would be the regular Tuesday board meeting day. Opposed to 2 years ago, we did a Friday night and a Saturday. I'll say, Sally is opposed to taking these people's Friday night or Saturday. I love y'all, but I don't want to see y'all on Friday night. So that's Tuesday. That's a Tuesday date instead. Any other questions, concerns, discussion?
I think for the July 11th, just my 2 cents on that, having it in the evening would be better, late afternoon, early evening, but like an all-day thing, I don't think that.
Be difficult.
I think that would be difficult for work schedules.
I know it would be difficult for me, but I hate to prohibit everybody else. Last year we started at like 4:30, and we did like our 4 o'clock, and we went to like 10 p.m. So we did like 6 hours, which sounds like a long time, but sometimes we stay here for 6 hours. So I don't know, but maybe like an early start would give us enough time to do a good workshop. But I think that regular date is better. It's planned out in my life on that regular date. So, all right. Hearing no other discussion, we'll call the question. All in favor to approve the 2017-2018 board meeting dates as presented, please respond by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. We have some dates.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll get to work on that. And even though we're approaching the end of the school year, as you know, our staff and our students and faculty, and they're not slowing down in terms of the accolades and achievements that they've been receiving. So we'll start with the Wellness Awards. Last week, several of our schools celebrated their healthy habits and promoted healthy lifestyles among students during the 4th annual MUSC Boeing Center for Wellness Award ceremony. Had that at Westview Middle School. So congratulations to Sangaree Elementary and Westview Middle School on tying for first place. Both of those schools received a $2,000 grant, $2,000 in grant money, and 40 of our 44 schools participated in the program this year. So the remaining 38 schools qualified for a $500 grant. We had the Pride celebration last week, and we already met Miss Megan Verner of Devon Forest, but we also celebrated all of the district's first-year teachers at our Pride celebration. I have to congratulate and thank Dr. Kim McLaren and the entire Office of Leadership Development and Evaluation for planning and coordinating the ceremony, and the faculty and staff, administration and staff of Westview Middle for hosting the annual event. And I'd also be remiss if I did not thank and show my appreciation for the folks in our Child Nutrition Services office for preparing a delicious and yet extremely budget-friendly meal. They do a fantastic job, and they do that every time. They never disappoint. Last Wednesday, we celebrated and honored 36 of our 7th grade students for being recognized by the Duke University Talent Identification Program, and 173 of our 8th grade students for being named South Carolina Junior Scholars. So for those of you that do not know, our Duke TIP program scholars, they qualified for recognition based on their SAT or ACT scores in 7th grade. 3 of these scholars met the criteria for the national recognition and were invited to attend the grand ceremony that was held at Duke University actually yesterday. These students, to qualify for the national ceremony, they had to score within the top 90th percentile rank for college-bound. Their scores were compared to college-bound seniors as well. Our junior scholars scored 550 or higher on the evidence-based reading and writing, or a 530 or higher on the math portion of the PSAT. Last Thursday, we had our Breakfast of Champions. We celebrated our high school students for their academic success, their service, and their leadership at the 20th Annual Breakfast of Champions. The Berkeley Chamber of Commerce hosted the event at Charleston Southern, and congratulations to all of our students and the teachers that were recognized by our students. I'd also like to thank the Berkeley Chamber of Commerce, Charleston Southern University, and Trident Health and SCE&G for their continued partnership in hosting the event, sponsoring the event, excuse me. And last but certainly not least, it was a big week for Hanahan last week. Hanahan High School, Mr. Ramsey. The Hanahan High School softball team, they earned the title of 3A state champions. After a best of 3 game series, the Hanahan Hawks beat Crescent 8-7 in a 12-inning went extra innings. I was not able to attend, but I got the blow-by-blow from Mr. Raycroft, and it was very exciting going 5 extra innings and winning in the bottom of the 12th. It was very exciting. I felt like I was there. I was anxious and everything. I'd also like to congratulate the Hanahan Hawks tennis team for winning their first ever state championship. They finished the season 15-0 with a victory of 4-2 over AC Flora. Finally, I'd like to congratulate the Hanahan Hawks boys track team for earning the boys 3A state championship title. And this concludes my remarks.
Mr. Ramsey might be a little full of himself.
We'd also like to recognize that we do have the ladies softball coach out in the crowd tonight.
Please stand up.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. I missed that.
We were all watching live on Facebook and getting the updates and checking Facebook nonstop for those of us who couldn't be there, so congratulations. We'll move on now to the board chair report. I'm going to invite Mr. Ricky Lopes of the School Efficiency Consultants to come up and give a fiscal wellness audit update. He is a CPA and has been here on site checking behind us and making sure our books are good.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, board members, Mr. Jackson, members of the audience. My name is Ricky Lopes. I'm with the School Efficiency Consultants, and my partners and I are former finance officers with the school system in North Carolina. We started this business in 2010, and have been in about 5 states in the Southeast working with school systems on various financial topics. And we were asked to come in and do a financial wellness checklist or check for you after the events that happened in February. And so what I'd like to do tonight is go over some of our observations and first let you know that these are just observations. We haven't gone into any detail or depth yet to look into any issues. And just because they're observations doesn't mean something's wrong. It's just things that caught our attention and that maybe need to be looked at into the future. There's maybe some ways to save some money. And once again, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's any improprieties. It's just things that caught our attention as we were here. But after February, the board made several changes to as far as the staff and some contracted services with other vendors. And our recommendations, I hope you'll take those a step further and make some of these recommendations on top of the changes that you've already made as a school system. I'm not going to read the whole report to you. You have access to it, and so I don't think you want me to read to you for the next few minutes. And so I talk fast anyway, but if we can go to the observations on page be on page 4. There's actually about 28 observations, and then there are some recommendations. Some of them you're already aware of, but we came across those also during our review, so I just thought that we would reiterate those in the report. The first one is the capital construction project expenditures were cash flowed with general fund balance and bond money set aside specifically for equipment instead of using the approved general obligation bond proceeds. And so what that did was it caused you to have to issue bonds, some of your bonds, at the taxable bonds instead of non-taxable bonds. So that's going to cost you some additional dollars, or it is costing you additional dollars over the life of those bonds. We noticed there was several instances where short-term bonds were issued for cash flow purposes to help you with your general fund expenditures. Well, once again, the general fund monies were used to help with capital expenditures, which required you to get short-term money to help with your general fund obligations. So not only did you have interest expense, you also had financial advisor and legal fees associated with the issuance of short-term bonds. So they're related. Those two items are related, but in essence, you had some additional interest in other expenses that we ordinarily wouldn't see. One thing that we see sometimes, is, especially with construction projects as large as what you have here, sometimes you'll see prototype construction projects where you use the same designs from school to school. That's not necessarily what we see here. Once again, we're not saying that's wrong, but sometimes you'll see similar designs used to save money on construction costs and on design fees for schools when you see large, multi-million-dollar construction projects. Another thing that we also noticed that there were numerous premiums and consultant fees paid to an insurance broker related to projects and the corporation set up to handle the debt payments. You have a SAFE corporation that handles the debt payments, and we noticed there were numerous insurance payments made on behalf of that corporation, which is in essence a dummy corporation. It's really just a paper corporation to handle some of your debt. And once again, we haven't looked at it in more detail. It's just something that we noticed. There were many invoices with no substantial or no details involved. What we call one-line invoices, where it was a dollar amount paid to a vendor, but nothing that substantiated what that detail represented. Those same invoices sometimes were only approved by the finance officer as opposed to going through the normal channels where somebody who's set up in the finance department to start that approval process signs it, then it goes to the finance officer. That first step was missed on several large invoices. A lot of your invoices or some of your invoices that were paid to the insurance companies went straight to the broker instead of to the insurance companies. And so we're trying to trace those to find out how much of that was actually premium for the insurance company, how much of it was maybe additional fees or commissions paid to that particular broker. One thing that, and it may be something that's just done in South Carolina in general, but one thing that we noticed is that the builder's risk insurance was paid by the district on behalf of the builder directly to the insurance broker. We're used to seeing that paid by the builder. You're going to pay for it one way or the other, but usually we see that paid by the builder, and then, of course, that's part of their construction costs. But in this case, the builder's risk was paid by the district for the builders. And as you already know, your capital projects budget is short. I think the last estimate you were given is $7 million, and that's going to be a changing number. You still got 2 new schools. One was presented tonight. You still got some schools that are under construction. But I think the most recent number you were given was $7 million as far as the capital budget deficit. You have some other bond money that was specifically set aside for equipment that was also used to help cash flow the construction project. So you had several pots of money that normally we see as being set aside for a specific purpose that were used for other purposes. And once again, that's costing you some interest in legal and advisory fees. One thing that we noticed overall, that and this is something that we're not used to seeing either, but in South Carolina, it's okay to do it this way. The general fund is the only fund that's budgeted and brought to the board. We're used to seeing all funds budgeted, and so all that's brought to you for approval is the general fund. But there are other funds that, as a school system, that you have that, as one of our recommendations would be that you budget all funds so that the board's aware of all the money that comes through the school system. The accounts payable amount was a little bit higher than what we normally see. That, and once again, that doesn't necessarily mean something's wrong, but that's something that we need to look at in more detail. E-rate reimbursements are not going back to the source of where the expenditure occurred, and so we'll have a recommendation for that. One of the things that we're noticing right now is that you have negative investment earnings in your general fund, and so that's a little bit unusual. We don't normally see negative investment income. So once again, we've got to look at that and find out what's going on there. Your Medicaid reimbursements seem to be reasonable, but as you heard tonight, and we were looking at some today, your Medicaid reimbursements are going down, so we're going to try to look at that some more to find out why it's going down, if it's just a temporary thing, if that's going to be permanent. Your insurance premiums and fees appear to be high. Once again, if we do some additional work, we'll do an analysis of that to figure out what we think maybe a better way or another way to be insured and maybe do it a little bit cheaper. We noticed some issues with benefit deductions, specifically hospitalization deductions are not reconciled on a timely basis, so that's causing the school system to have to pay additional premiums out of pocket for your health insurance that if it was reconciled, you could remit the correct amount. And so that ranges anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 a month. And so once again, that's something that needs to be looked at. Current software has some limitations. So what's happening is that your HR and finance functions are not integrated. They're not interfaced. And so there's some processes. We haven't gone through the processes yet, but there's going to be some processes probably that could be done more efficiently and maybe prevent some manual processes when your current software is implemented. There's not a position control system that we could find. What we like to see is that there's a certain number of positions that are budgeted. Those positions are then given to the schools. And so if a school's given, say, 20 teachers, then that's all that they're allotted is 20. That's all they can hire is 20. Right now, there's not a correlation between positions allotted and the budget. Not to say that there's anything that they've over allotted, but there's nothing in place to guarantee that only a certain number of positions are going to each of the schools, whether it be teachers, custodians, whatever the case may be. And so we usually see a position control system on a school-by-school basis that we didn't find here. We also were not able to find allotment formulas. There's usually a formula that's used for each type of school to be able to determine how many teachers and other personnel are given to the schools. Obviously, personnel is your biggest expense in the budget. And so to have some control over how many positions are going out to the schools would be helpful. And formulas are the most equitable way to do that. You can adjust the formulas and make additions to the formulas, but you usually start with a base formula, and we did not see those in place. Your fund balance is looking good. Your general fund right now appears to be okay. There are some revenue numbers that we're going to look at in the future to make sure that we're still on target. But right now, for the current year, your general fund looks like it's going to be okay. Any questions on the observations before we get to the recommendations?
How far did you go back in this study?
In some cases, we went back as far back as 2010. If we saw some invoices that looked like they may have been different or something that we're not used to seeing, we asked the finance staff to go back as far as they could. In most cases, it was just 2 years, but in some cases, we went back to 2010, 2011. We looked at the budgets, we looked at the audits, we looked at literally hundreds of invoices. We had interviews with the staff, and so we've been up here. At the time we did this report, I've been up here 2 more times since we did the report. So I've been up here 4 times working with the staff. And while I'm thinking about it, I want to thank Jackie and the finance department staff. They've been awesome. They've done a great job to get you through this transition, and they've done everything that we've asked them to do, work with us collaboratively, and I appreciate what they've done to help us out. But for the most part, though, it was just a 2-year analysis. Some of the yes, sir.
Have you shared this kind of general, I would call this general list of observations with our the other accountants we have, the forensic accountants, so that they can drill down on some of these issues?
I'm glad you brought that up, because this is not a forensic audit, but you do have did have, I guess, a forensic auditor that did some preliminary work. And to answer your question, there hasn't been collaboration of what we found with them. I'm not sure what that situation is, but they haven't been here since we've been here. And so I know why they came in, and so I know what they were looking at. Our scope was a little bit different, but yes, if they could take some of this stuff, if they don't already know it, they could probably take some of this stuff and expand on it further to find maybe some things that we did not look for, did not find.
Well, there are several items in here that are very disconcerting to me. And I feel like, as a board, we really do need to take all of these that I've highlighted so far into consideration going forward. And I do appreciate it. I appreciate your observations, because these are issues that I think all of us in the back of our minds, because of our recent history and what's been disclosed, is something inappropriate going on, or has it been going on, and how much money has been wasted. These are things that I feel like we need to correct. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having us. We appreciate the opportunity to be here, and hopefully we'll be able to continue doing some work for you, and we can get you more details in the future. But we do have a few recommendations that may help us in the future. One, especially on the insurance side, we think that you need a detailed risk management analysis to look at your insurance products and also put them out for bid. We couldn't find instances where insurance products have been put out for bid in the recent future. And our history between the 3 of us, the 3 partners, between the 3 of us, we have over 100 years experience in school finance. And so we've been around for a while, and we usually see a bid cycle where insurance products are bid on a regular basis, so that you're getting the best product and the best value for your dollar as a school system. We also want to work with you some on probably developing procedures on how to reconcile your hospital bills on a monthly basis, on a timely basis, because some of the things that are being paid in error could be corrected before the invoice is actually paid if it's done on a timely basis. And all deduction bills should be reconciled monthly. There's no reason for it. The longer you wait, the harder it is to reconcile, and some vendors may not give you your money back retroactively. It depends on the vendor. Some may be 30 days, some may be 60, some may say, once you pay the bill, that's it. And so that's one of the things we would work with the staff on, is finding out what the policy is for these benefits, to find out if any of that money can be reimbursed back to the school system if there were in fact overpayments. The other thing with dealing with insurance is we think that the bill should be paid directly to the vendor, not to the broker, just from a control standpoint. But once again, right now, all the payments are going to the broker first, and then remitted to the agent or to the insurance company. We also recommend that a budget be done, not for this year, obviously, because you're already in your budget cycle, but in the future, that all budgets be done for all funds. Once again, it's not required, but you'll find that you do have districts in your own state that, even though it's not required, they are doing budgets for all funds. I just think it's the prudent thing to do, and it keeps the board informed as to what total dollars are available as a school system. because you're responsible for all funds, not just the general fund. Some additional policies or procedures need to be developed, and I won't go over all those, but based on what we've just observed, there's several things that can be corrected with just either a board policy or internal procedures, and we would work with the staff on trying to get those done. We already talked about position controls and allotment formulas. I'm trying to not take too much of your time. That pretty much, and you can read the other bullets that we have on there, but that pretty much covers the recommendations and the observations. And like I said, I apologize if I talk too fast, but if you have any questions or whatever, I'd be glad to answer them for you.
I move that we authorize the board chair to enter a contract with school efficiency consultants for continued advisory and consulting services for accounting and financial wellness support related directly to the finance, business, and risk management functions of the district, an amount not to exceed $37,500 plus reasonable travel costs.
I second.
There's a motion by Wofford, a second by Conder. So what I'd like to accomplish in this motion is to give school efficiency consultants the ability to stick with us, help us implement some of these recommendations, give us policy recommendations, help us to come up with a process to reconcile our insurance premiums, a process to make sure that we're paying the vendors correctly. But I would like to work with them to implement these recommendations to get the controls in place. I don't want to cut ties with them and then try to come up with a way to implement the recommendations. And I think some of the things they brought are very serious, and I want to keep moving forward. Their first contract, so all this work that they've done, they did for $14,000.
Wow.
Which is exceptional. So to help us implement the recommendations for $37,000 seems substantial to me, especially realizing that, we're $50,000 out of whack a month by not reconciling our insurance premiums. Makes me very concerned. And I think that we have some controls that are missing. So I would like to continue this relationship with school efficiency consultants. Does anybody have any other questions or discussions on continuing this, Mr. Barrett?
Just a couple. The $37,000, was that from the consultant firm to you as a request for that? If so, was there a timeline that we're talking about, a time frame to get this work accomplished?
Yes, we're looking at through July 31st to try to get you through the end of the fiscal year and get you started for the next fiscal year so that we can get this done as soon as possible. So there'll be 3 of us that will be in and out over the next 2 to 3 months. I'm the only one here tonight, obviously, but there'll be at least 3 of us that come periodically to work with Jackie and the staff.
I want to second what Ms. Conder said. I think this is extremely valuable for us to be made aware of the circumstances surrounding what we all know is a deplorable situation. And we need to rectify this as quickly as possible. And we appreciate your due diligence in making sure that we are made aware and come up to full steam ahead and do the right things fiscally for our children and for our schools. So I applaud you for your efforts, and I agree, Ms. Wofford. I think we need to go forward with this with, full steam ahead.
Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns?
Make a point that I think in the end, $37,000 is a lot of money, but we're going to save way more than that by putting in these controls and safeguards and operating more efficiently. So to me, it's kind of a no-brainer that we can spend $37,000 and save hundreds of thousands.
I agree.
You took my line.
Hearing no other discussion, we'll call the question. All in favor of authorizing the chair to enter a contract with the school efficiency consultants for continued advisory and consulting services for accounting and financial wellness support related directly to the finance, business, and risk management functions of the district in an amount not to exceed $37,500 plus reasonable travel cost, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you, sir, for the report. We appreciate it, and we look forward to working with you
Thank you very
over the
much.
next couple of months. Thank you. It is a busy time of year. There are many, many programs going on. You have received many invitations. I urge you to get out to our schools and see our children doing wonderful things if you can make time. I do know that the retirement banquet is coming up on Thursday night. Also, on May 31st, we start graduation season with the Berkeley Middle College. So please let Mr. Jackson know if you're planning to attend. You do not have to wear a cap, but they do full regalia, and you need a gown. If you need a gown, you need to let staff know, and they will help you get a gown. If you have a gown, feel free to wear it. I like to sport my Gamecocks, but I did not know that the first year we did that, and I felt very silly until I figured out that I needed the gown and not the hat. So we have lots of new members, so you need the gown and not the hat. But let Mr. Jackson know if you need a gown so that you can be prepared for graduation. This is one of the most exciting times that we have, lots of hands to shake. So we'll move on now to agenda item 11, executive session. Is there a motion?
I make the motion that we enter executive session.
Second.
I yield.
There's a motion by Mr. Ramsey, a second by Mr. Barrow. We will be entering into executive session for legal advice on our current litigation and another legal matter, a personnel reorganization update from Harding, Parker and Associates, discussion of pending employment matters, 3 student expulsion appeals, and 16 student attendance appeals. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of going into executive session, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We're in executive session. We'll entertain a motion to return to regular session.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McQuillan, a second by Mr. Barrow to return to regular session. I'd like to state that no votes or action was taken in executive session. All in favor of returning to regular session, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. We'll now entertain motions as needed from executive session.
Madam Chairwoman, I move to approve the organizational structure recommended by Harding, Parker and Associates, LLC to streamline the operational efficiencies of the central office and to adopt the organizational structure as discussed in executive session pursuant to the discussions of personnel matters of the central office, and to direct the interim superintendent to meet with Harding, Parker and Associates, LLC to implement the organizational structure as approved tonight, and to bring back to the board final personnel recommendations at the June 13th, 2017 meeting.
I second.
There's a motion by Mr. McQuillan, a second by Ms. Conder. There has been ample discussion, so we will call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Any additional motions as needed from executive session?
Madam Chairwoman, I move to approve the extension of the original contract of Harding, Parker and Associates, LLC to continue all such consulting services outlined under the board's original motion of March the 10th, 2017, and to authorize the chairwoman of the board to extend the contract under the terms of the original agreement.
Second. There's a motion by Mr. Ramsey, a second by Wofford, to extend the contract of Harding, Parker and Associates and to authorize the chair to extend the contract under the terms of the original agreement entered into on March 10th, 2017. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Excuse me, this is for 30 days? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, there are 30 days.
Okay.
All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. The motion passes. We'll now move on to expulsion appeals.
Madam Chairwoman, the matter of student number 1, I move that we grant the appeal and send the student to the alternative school.
A second.
There's a motion by Mr. McQuillan, a second by Mr. Ramsey, to assign student number 1 to the alternative school. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay.
The motion passes.
Madam Chairwoman, in the matter of student number 2, I move that we grant the appeal and send the student to the alternative school.
A second.
There's a motion by Mr. McQuillan, a second by Mr. Ramsey, to assign student number 2 to the alternative school. All of those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. 6-0, the motion passes. Now for student number 3, expulsion appeal.
Madam Chairwoman, in the matter of student number 3, I move that we grant the appeal and send the student to the alternative school.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McQuillan, a second by Mr. Ramsey, to assign student number 3 to the alternative school. All of those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay.
The motion passes. We'll now move to attendance appeal.
Madam Chair, in the matter of student number 1, attendance appeal, I move that we deny the appeal.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Lee, a second by Mr. Barrow to deny the appeal of student number 1. All of those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay.
3-3, the motion is defeated. Students 2 and 3 will be heard together.
But on student number 1, can we, since the motion was defeated, can we table it like we did the other ones to the next meeting?
So I would say that let's get through the process and figure out if more than all the defeated motions we can table.
All at the same time.
And make one motion.
10-4.
I mean, I love y'all, but it's almost 11 o'clock at night. Students number 2 and 3, we will hear together.
Madam Chair Lady, I make a motion we deny the attendance appeals.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Barrow, a second by Mr. McQuillan to deny the appeals of students number 2 and 3. All of those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Shot. 6-0, the motion passes. We'll now move on to students 4. I'm sorry, student number 4.
Madam Chairwoman, in the matter of student number 4, I move that we grant the attendance appeal.
Second. There's a motion by McQuillan, a second by Wofford, to grant the appeal of student number 4. All of those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
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 3-3, the motion is defeated. Students 5 and 6 will be heard together. Is there a motion for students number 5 and 6?
Madam Chair, in the matters of student 5 and 6, I move that we approve the appeal.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Lee, a second by Mr. McQuillan, to grant the appeal of students number 5 and 6. All of those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
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 4-2, the motion passes. Now for student number 7.
Madam Chair, in the matter of student number 7, I move that we grant the attendance appeal.
I second.
There's a motion by Mr. McQuillan, a second by Ms. Conder, to grant the appeal of student number 7. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay.
Student number 8.
That motion fails.
That motion failed. We'll now hear student number 8.
Madam Chairwoman, in the matter of student number 8, I move that we grant the attendance appeal.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McQuillan, a second by Mr. Barrow, to grant the appeal of student number 8. All of those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Student number 9.
Madam Chair Lady, I move that we accept and approve the recommendation or the appeal.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Barrow, a second by Mr. McQuillan to grant the appeal of student number 9. All of those in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. 6-0, the motion passes. Student number 10.
Madam Chair, I move that we deny the appeal for student number 10.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Lee, a second by Mr. Barrow, to deny the appeal of student number 10. All of those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
So that motion is defeated.
2-4, that's defeated.
So I move that we grant the attendance appeal of, was it student number 10?
Student number 10.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McQuillan, a second by Ms. Conder, to grant the appeal of student number 10. All of those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay.
4-2, the motion passes. Student number 11.
Madam Chairman, I move that we grant the appeal.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Conder, a second by Mr. McQuillan, to grant the appeal of student number 11. All of those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
4-2, the motion passes. Student number 12.
Madam Chairman, I move that we grant the appeal.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Conder, a second by Mr. McQuillan, to grant the appeal of student number 12. All of those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. 6-0, the motion passes. Students number 13 and 14 will be heard together.
Madam Chair, in the matter of students number 13 and 14, I move that we grant the attendance appeal.
Second. There's a motion by Mr. McQuillan, a second by Wofford, to grant the attendance appeals of students number 13 and 14. All of those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
4-2, the motion passes. Students number 15 and 16 will be heard together.
Madam Chair, in the matters of student 15 and 16, I move that we deny the appeal.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Lee, a second by Mr. Barrow, to deny the appeal of students number 15 and 16. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay.
Vote. Motion fails.
I would say, were you a nay, Mr. McQuillan? 3-3.
I was a nay.
Motion fails. So for the record, I have students 1, 4, 7, 15, and 16. I make a motion that we table the attendance appeals of students number 1, 4, 7, 15, and 16 until June the 13th.
Second.
There's a motion by Wofford, a second by Mr. McQuillan, to table these two students until June the 13th. All of those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Is there any other business as required from executive session? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Conder, a second by Mr. McQuillan. Y'all, it's past my bedtime. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of adjourning, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.